Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Joe the Lawyer. I'm your host, Joe Pometto, a practicing Pittsburgh attorney here in Pennsylvania. Today, we're going to take a look at an article from Time called Crime Rates Plummet Around the World as the Coronavirus Keeps People Inside. Very, very interesting stuff here. The coronavirus is causing a drop in crime. I'm going to go through the article and then I'm going to add a couple ideas of my own. Tell me what you think about my ideas and the article in the comments below. Before we dig in, if you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Really looking to get some subscribers right now. So if you're watching, you're not subscribed, go ahead, subscribe for me. Also share this video if you find it interesting and you know someone who would like it. Please share it with them. Also, give me a comment on the sound. I'm constantly experimenting here. It sounds okay in my headphones, but I don't know if it sounds okay to everybody else. All right, so I find this topic particularly interesting because I'm a criminal defense attorney here in Pittsburgh. One thing I can say for sure that we have seen is DUIs have fallen off the face of the earth. And that's because people can't go to bars, people can't go to restaurants, people can't go to parties, okay? DUIs plummeting. I don't know anybody who's got one in the last couple of months, but let's read this article and I'll give you my theories. So this is out of Chicago. The coronavirus pandemic that has crippled big box retailers and mom and pop shops worldwide may be making a dent in illicit business too. In Chicago, one of America's most violent cities, drug arrests have plummeted 42% in the weeks since the city shut down, compared with the same period last year. Note, drug arrests. Part of that decrease, some criminal lawyers say, is that drug dealers have no choice but to wait out the economic slump. They're talking about my people. The feedback I'm getting is that they aren't able to move, to sell anything anywhere, said Joseph Lopez, a criminal lawyer in Chicago who represents reputed drug dealers. And when I say my people, I mean the criminal defense attorneys, not the drug dealers, okay? Well, maybe they kind of are my people too. I represent them. Okay. Overall, Chicago's crime declined 10% after the pandemic struck, a trend playing out globally as cities report stunning crime drops in the weeks since measures were put into place to slow the spread of the virus. Even among regions that have the highest levels of violence outside a war zone, fewer people are being killed and fewer robberies are taking place, which makes me wonder what's happening in war zones. Still, law enforcement officials worry about a surge of unreported domestic violence and what happens when restrictions lift or go on too long. It's rare for a city to see a double-digit drop in crime, even over a much longer period. During New York City's 1990s crime decline, one of the biggest turnarounds in American history, crime dropped about 40% over 3 years. That makes the drop-offs occurring now in a period of just a couple of weeks even more seismic. Well, will this last is the question. Across Latin America, crime is down to levels unseen in decades. Killings are down, and the gangsters aren't harassing so much. Eduardo Perdomo, a 47-year-old construction worker, said while getting off a bus in San Salvador, "I think they're afraid of catching the virus and they aren't going out." El Salvador reported an average of 2 killings a day last month. Wow. Down from a peak of 600 a day a few years ago. That's not crime. That's war. Anyway, much of the decrease has taken place because of tougher security policies and gang truces, but the imposition of near total limits on movement is likely driving it down further, according to analysts and national statistics. In Peru, where crime levels fell 84% last month, Lima mortician Raul Gonzalez usually has as many as 15 bodies a day. Many are homicide victims. This week, he napped on a bench after 6 hours without a client. See, some businesses hurt, like criminal defense attorneys and morticians. When crime goes down, it's not good for everybody in a weird way. There are almost no killings or car accidents these days, Gonzalez said. Yeah, the car accidents too. There's other articles on that. In South Africa, police reported a stunning decline during their first week of lockdown measures. Police Minister Becky Cele, I tried, said reported rapes were down from 700 to 101 over the same period last year. Reported. Serious assault cases plummeted to 2,673 to 456, and murders fell from 326 to 94. The U.S. virus epicenter in New York saw major crimes: murder, rape, robbery, burglary, assault, grand larceny, and car theft. Oh, a lot of the big ones in there. Decreased by 12% from February to March. In Los Angeles, 2020 key crime statistics were consistent with last year's figures until the week of March 15th, when they dropped by 30%. There's a lot fewer opportunities for criminals to take advantage of, said Joe Giacalone, a former New York Police Department sergeant who now teaches at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Most burglars, they wait for you to leave their house. That's a good point. That's a good point. I did a prior video on a burglary that these two guys attempted right when the coronavirus had started out. It didn't end well for them. Policing has also changed in the face of the pandemic. Those burglars went into a house where the family was present. Policing has also changed in the face of the pandemic. Officers are increasingly getting sick. The NYPD, the country's largest department with more than 36,000 officers, has more than 7,000 officers out and more than 2,000 diagnosed with COVID-19. Wow. And U.S. authorities say they are issuing citations instead of making low-level arrests. Policing, social distancing, and putting detectives into patrol cars, which could in turn bring down crime rates. That was my next theory. While departments are unlikely to announce they've backed off policing certain crimes, that's going to be the case, said Bowling Green State University criminologist Philip Stinson. In many respects, over the next few weeks, they're really in survival mode, he said. But while narcotics arrests are down, drug sales continue, with dealers likely forced to change their strategies. Rodney Phillips, a former gang member in Chicago who now works as a conflict mediator in the city. These guys already face poverty and death in these areas. They might be selling more online now, but they aren't going to give up just because of the coronavirus. A Maryland man accused of operating a dark net store selling prescription opioids boasted on his vendor page, even with coronavirus, the shop is running at full speed. He told an undercover FBI agent he was just waiting for a shipment because this coronavirus is blank is expletive up inventory, according to court documents. Well, that would make sense because it appears that people are drinking alcohol at extremely high rates. So, everybody's staying home. I don't think drug users are going to just stop using drugs. They're just going to do a lot of their drugs at home. So I had three theories about why the crime has plummeted, and this article covered two of them very spot on. One of them was, I believe that the police are just investigating less. You can see there with New York City, they've lost a significant portion of their department. So they're definitely going to be investigating less. They don't have the same force. What you have to understand about police work, too, is a lot of it is proactive. So, for example, in the drug world, police will find confidential informants. They'll set up controlled sales. They'll have people go undercover in order to discover who drug dealers are and where they deal. That is more proactive police work. It takes time to build a case like that. You got to get search warrants from the judges, etc., etc. I am sure that less of that is going on now. They're probably looking to, like these articles said, enforce social distancing and respond to crimes more rather than doing that offensive police work that police departments all across the country normally do. That is just my hunch. I haven't read that, but I would bet that that is happening. So the police are not going to be, racking up the arrests that they normally rack up when they do these very detailed investigations. Then you have things like DUIs that they're just not happening. Less assaults you can be sure of because people go out, they get into fights. When they're drinking at bars, with no bars and restaurants, less activity out on the streets. It's less opportunity for fights and crimes that arise from large crowds, bars, and drinking. My second theory was covered in here. I'm sure the criminals are also concerned about catching COVID-19. If you're in a big city, they don't want to be standing out on a street corner to make a drug sale. Again, it's probably gone online, etc. But they're probably concerned too, and they're staying home. There is concern about domestic violence going up. I imagine we'll see how that plays out in the months once the lockdown is lifted. And finally, the other argument I was going to make, which they sort of touched on down here, is that a lot of crime is utilitarian. And what I mean by that is they take advantage of opportunities in the market, right? The black hand of the market. And so when there's not a lot of economic activity, criminal activity can drop off as well. Let me give you two examples. It's pretty well known. Every time the Super Bowl goes to a city, and you'll see this in articles, it always pops up that there's human trafficking, right? All these guys go to the Super Bowl and they have money, and they want to find a prostitute, do whatever they're going to do. Okay, so the legitimate economic activity of the Super Bowl increases the illegal economic activity. Those are opportunities for criminals to go down, engage in prostitution, etc. Another example is, maybe not the greatest example here, but sort of is prohibition, right? Like the police outlawed alcohol, and that created opportunities for criminals. I guess that's not really the case here, but I do think that the drop in activities such as the Super Bowl, large events, being able to go to bars, being able to go to restaurants, a general dampening in an economic activity can lead to a drop in criminal activity as well. Then again, if people start to really, really go broke, you might see an increase. So I found this fascinating. I think that this says something about us as human beings. Like, why do we have high crime rates? Why does crime occur when looking at a societal level? When something like this, a virus epidemic can cause these massive plummets in crime, why can't we control crime when the economy is normal, right? And how closely tied is criminal activity to economic activity, right? Is there more crime the more the economy is going? It's just so fascinating to me. They say, well, we'll never get rid of crime. That's true, but there are probably things we could do to really, really decrease the crime rates in American society, but not only, but in other countries too. Because if you look hard at some other countries, they have much lower crime rates than America. America does well compared to a lot of undeveloped countries, but amongst developed countries, we probably have the highest crime rate in the world. So very, very interesting here. It says something about human nature. I'm not sure exactly what it says, but I'm going to think about it some more. Excuse me. I hope you found this article interesting and my thoughts on it interesting. I'm Joe Pometto, Joe the lawyer, a practicing Pittsburgh attorney. I do criminal defense, personal injury, landlord-tenant. I'm a general practitioner and an age of specialist. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Really trying to get subscriptions right now. Also share. If you share these videos, send it to someone who you think may find it fascinating. It's a great way to support this show for free. I don't get paid to do this, okay? So help me out. Give me a share. Give me a subscribe. It's a free way to support this show. I don't charge you for this show. It will always be free. Thank you for tuning in. Joe the Lawyer out.